Roger Federer just did the unthinkable for Alex Eala, and the internet can't stop talking about it. What started as a quiet gesture behind the scenes has now exploded into one of the most heartwarming and controversial moments in tennis this year. A legend reaching out to a rising star, a mentor stepping in when no one expected it. But not everyone is celebrating. Some are calling it unfair. Others are calling it the future of the sport. And Alex Eala? She's at the center of it all, caught between gratitude and a storm she never asked for. Alex Eala was supposed to be the breakthrough story of 2024, the first Filipino Grand Slam champion in the junior circuit, a player with fire in her eyes and a dream too big to ignore. But somewhere between the junior finals and the brutal reality of professional tennis, that dream started to crack. By early 2025, Eala was stuck, ranked outside the top 200, struggling to secure wildcards into major tournaments, and battling injuries that kept pulling her back just when momentum was building. She had the talent, everyone knew that, but talent doesn't pay for flights to clay court qualifiers in Europe. Talent doesn't get you into the main draw when your ranking isn't high enough. Talent doesn't heal a shoulder that's been overworked for years without proper support. Behind the scenes, Eala was running out of options. Her team was small, her sponsorships were limited, and while the Philippines rallied behind her with love and pride, the infrastructure to support a rising WTA player simply wasn't there. She needed coaching, she needed access, she needed someone to open doors that had been slammed shut too many times. But who steps in for a player like Alex Eala? She wasn't a prodigy from a tennis academy in Florida. She didn't have the backing of a major federation with endless resources. She was fighting alone. Until she wasn't. In January 2025, rumors started swirling. Whispers on tennis forums, a blurry photo from a practice court in Switzerland, and then a name that nobody expected to be attached to this story, Roger Federer. At first, it seemed impossible. Federer had retired. He was enjoying family life, building his foundation, occasionally showing up courtside at major events. Why would he involve himself in the career of a struggling WTA player from Southeast Asia? But those who know Federer understood something the casual fan didn't. This wasn't random. This was personal. Federer has always believed in something bigger than rankings. He's spoken about it before. The responsibility of those who've made it to help those still climbing. And when he saw Eala's story, something clicked. A young player with undeniable skill, fighting against a system that wasn't built for her. It reminded him of players he'd seen fall through the cracks, players who deserved more but never got the chance. So he reached out, quietly. No press release, no announcement, just a conversation between a legend and a fighter who refused to give up. And that's where everything began. But what did Federer actually do? And why did it set the internet on fire? It started with a phone call. According to sources close to Eala's camp, Federer personally contacted her in late January. Not through agents, not through a PR team, just Roger Federer calling Alex Eala, asking her one simple question. What do you need? Eala was stunned. She later described the moment in an interview as surreal, saying she had to ask him to repeat himself because she couldn't believe it was real. But it was. And Federer wasn't offering empty words. He wanted to help, actually help. Within weeks, the plan took shape. Federer arranged for Eala to train at his academy in Switzerland, not as a publicity stunt, not for a weekend photo shoot, a full training block with access to his coaching staff, his facilities, and his network. He covered the costs, he opened doors to sparring partners ranked in the top 50, he connected her with physiotherapists who had worked with Grand Slam champions. But the biggest move? Federer personally advocated for Eala to receive a wild card into the Geneva Open, a WTA 250 event held just weeks before the French Open. It was a tournament Federer had deep ties to, and his word carried weight. The wild card was granted. For Eala, this was life-changing, a chance to compete at a high level, to gain ranking points, to prove she belonged. For Federer, it was simply the right thing to do. And then the news broke. On February 3, 2025, a Swiss sports journalist tweeted a photo of Federer and Eala on a practice court with the caption, "Guess who's training with the GOAT?" Within hours, the story exploded. Tennis websites picked it up, fans flooded social media, and by the next morning, Roger Federer's involvement with Alex Eala was international news. The reactions were immediate and divided. Supporters called it beautiful, a legend giving back, a mentor stepping up when the system failed. Eala's Filipino fans were ecstatic, flooding her Instagram with messages of pride and gratitude. Tennis legends like Billie Jean King and Martina Navratilova praised Federer's gesture, calling it an example of what the sport should be about. But not everyone was cheering. Some players questioned the fairness. Why Eala? Why not other struggling players who'd been grinding for years? Was this about merit or about Federer's personal preference? And the wild card into Geneva? That was a spot that could have gone to someone else, someone who earned it through rankings, someone who didn't have a Swiss legend making phone calls on their behalf. The internet was split, and the story was just beginning. What happened next would turn admiration into outrage and force both Federer and Eala to defend something neither of them asked for. Within 48 hours, the Federer-Eala story had become one of the most talked about topics in tennis. But the conversation wasn't just about inspiration anymore. It was about fairness, privilege, and whether one player was getting an unfair advantage. On Twitter, the hashtag #FedererEala trended worldwide. Thousands of fans celebrated the mentorship, posting clips of Eala's junior wins and calling Federer a class act. Filipino sports pages exploded with pride. For a nation that had longed for a tennis star on the global stage, this felt like validation. Alex Eala wasn't just being noticed, she was being championed by the greatest of all time. But the backlash was just as loud. Several WTA players took to social media with thinly veiled criticisms. One former top 50 player tweeted, "Great that legends want to help, but what about the hundreds of players grinding without a famous mentor? Do they just not matter?" Another posted, "Wildcards should be earned, not gifted because you know the right people." The comment sections turned brutal. Fans accused Eala of being handed opportunities she didn't deserve. Others defended her, arguing that she'd already proven herself in juniors and that Federer saw something worth investing in. The debate raged on Reddit, tennis forums, and Instagram. Some called it mentorship, others called it nepotism. And then the think pieces started dropping. A prominent tennis journalist wrote an article titled "The Federer Effect. When Legends Pick Favorites, Does the Sport Suffer?" The piece questioned whether high-profile mentorships created an uneven playing field, giving certain players access that others would never have, regardless of talent. Another outlet published, "Alex Eala didn't ask for this, but now she has to live with it." The article explored the pressure Eala now faced. Every match would be scrutinized. Every win would be questioned. If she succeeded, critics would say it was because of Federer. If she failed, they'd say she wasted his time. Eala's Instagram became a battleground. Supportive comments were drowned out by accusations. "You didn't earn this. You're only here because of Roger. Prove you deserve it." And through it all, Eala stayed silent. For 2 weeks, she didn't post, didn't respond, didn't defend herself. Some saw it as grace under pressure, others saw it as guilt. But the silence couldn't last forever. Because when Alex Eala finally spoke, she said something nobody expected, and it changed everything. The pressure on Alex Eala was suffocating. Every practice session at Federer's academy was now under a microscope. Photos leaked online, fans analyzed her form, her footwork, whether she looked ready for the level Federer had pushed her into. The Geneva wildcard, which should have been a dream opportunity, now felt like a test she couldn't afford to fail. Critics weren't letting up. A former WTA coach went on a popular tennis podcast and said, "Look, I respect Roger, but this sets a bad precedent. What message does it send when a struggling player gets fast-tracked because a legend takes a liking to them? Tennis is supposed to be a meritocracy." Others pointed out the uncomfortable truth. Alex Eala wasn't the only talented player stuck in the challenger circuit. There were dozens of women grinding through qualifiers, paying out of pocket for coaching, sleeping in budget hotels, and barely scraping by. None of them had Roger Federer's number. None of them were training in Switzerland, and none of them were getting wildcards into WTA events. Was that fair? The question hung heavy over the entire story, and even Eala's supporters struggled to answer it. Yes, she had talent. Yes, she had potential. But so did a lot of players who would never get this chance. And that's what made this so complicated. Meanwhile, the Geneva Open organizers faced their own backlash. Fans accused them of favoritism, of bending the rules because Federer asked. The tournament director released a statement defending the decision, saying, "Alex Eala is a former junior Grand Slam champion with immense potential. We believe she deserves this opportunity, and we're proud to support her journey." But the statement only fueled more anger. Immense potential wasn't a ranking, it wasn't a resume, it was subjective. And in a sport built on numbers, subjectivity felt like privilege. Then the trolls arrived. Eala's social media became a war zone. Racist comments flooded her posts, attacking her nationality, her background, her right to be in European tennis. Some said she was being used as a diversity token. Others said she didn't belong. The hate was relentless. Her team tried to shield her, but the damage was done. Eala was no longer just fighting for her career, she was fighting for her dignity. And still, she stayed silent. Until February 18th. That's when Alex Eala posted a video. 3 minutes long, no script, just her, sitting on a bench at the academy, looking directly into the camera. And what she said shook the entire tennis world. Her words were raw, honest, and heartbreaking, and they forced everyone, including Roger Federer, to confront the truth. Alex Eala's video was quiet. No dramatic music, no edited cuts, just her voice. Steady but emotional, speaking directly to the people who had questioned her, doubted her, and attacked her. She started simply, "I didn't ask for this." Then she continued, "I didn't ask Roger Federer to reach out. I didn't ask for a wild card. I didn't ask to be in the middle of a debate about fairness and privilege, but here I am, and I want to set the record straight." She explained that she'd been training alone for months, struggling with injuries, barely able to afford proper physio. She talked about the nights she questioned whether she should quit, whether all the sacrifice was worth it. And then Federer called. "He didn't offer me a shortcut," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "He offered me a chance to train properly, a chance to see what I'm capable of when I have the same resources other players take for granted. That's it. That's all this is." She addressed the wild card directly. "If you think I don't deserve it, fine. Watch me play. Let my tennis speak. But don't tell me I'm stealing someone else's spot when I've been fighting for years just to get a fair shot." And then, the moment that silenced her critics. "I know there are other players struggling like I was. I know the system isn't fair. But me turning down help doesn't fix that. It just means one less person gets a chance. And I'm not going to apologize for taking mine." The video ended with her looking directly into the camera. "I'm going to Geneva. I'm going to play my heart out. And whatever happens, I'll know I earned my place here, because I never stopped believing I could." The response was overwhelming. Fans who had doubted her now stood behind her. Even some of her critics admitted she handled it with grace. Her post racked up millions of views, and the narrative began to shift. But the story wasn't over. 2 days later, Federer broke his silence. In a rare public statement, Federer addressed the controversy directly. "I reached out to Alex because I saw a fighter, someone who refused to give up despite a system that wasn't built for her. I've been fortunate in my career to have support when I needed it. If I can offer that to someone else, why wouldn't I?" He continued, "This isn't about favorites. It's about recognizing talent and giving it a chance to grow. Alex earned this through years of hard work. I'm just opening a door. What she does with it is up to her." And then the line that went viral. "If people are angry that one player is getting help, maybe the question isn't why Alex, but why not more players like her?" Federer's statement reframed the entire debate. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't about privilege, it was about a broken system, and whether legends like Federer should be expected to fix it, or if the sport itself needed to change. The world was watching.
and Alex Eala's next match would determine everything.
The Geneva Open arrived. Alex Eala walked onto the court carrying more than a racket. She carried the weight of a nation's pride, a legend's faith, and a world's judgment. Her first round match was against a top 80 player, someone experienced, battle-tested, and expected to win. Eala was the underdog, but she played like she had nothing to lose, because in a way, she didn't. She won in straight sets. The crowd erupted. Social media exploded. Federer, watching from the stands, smiled quietly. And for the first time in weeks, Alex Eala looked like she could breathe. She went on to win her second match, then her third. By the time she reached the semifinals, the narrative had completely flipped. This wasn't a story about unfair advantages anymore. This was a story about a young player seizing her moment and proving everyone wrong. She didn't win the tournament, but she didn't need to. She'd already won something bigger: respect. In her post-tournament interview, Eala was asked what this experience taught her. She paused, then said, "That help isn't a weakness, and that sometimes the people who believe in you see something you can't see yet. Roger saw that in me, and now I see it too." Federer later posted a photo of them together with the caption, "Proud of you, Alex. This is just the beginning." The internet, once divided, now celebrated. Fans from around the world sent messages of support. Other players spoke up, acknowledging that maybe the issue wasn't Eala, but a system that forced players to struggle alone until a legend stepped in. And the debate continued. Should more legends mentor rising stars? Should tournaments offer more wildcards to talented players from underrepresented regions? Should tennis federations invest more in players who don't fit the traditional mold? These are the questions Roger Federer's gesture forced the tennis world to confront. And whether or not you agree with how it happened, one thing is undeniable. Alex Eala's story is far from over. So here's the real question. Was this a one-time act of kindness, or the spark that changes how we support the next generation of tennis stars?
Roger Federer did the unthinkable. He saw a player the system overlooked and decided to do something about it. Alex Eala took that chance and turned it into a statement. And now the tennis world is left asking itself, what comes next? This is more than a feel-good story. It's a conversation about fairness, access, and who gets to decide who deserves a shot. And that conversation is just getting started. What do you think? Was Federer right to step in? Did Eala deserve the wild card? Or does the system need to change so players don't have to rely on legends to survive? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this debate is far from over. If you want more deep dives into the rivalries, controversies, and untold stories shaping women's tennis, subscribe and hit that notification